All right, looks like we're back. Internet tanked again for a minute, so I just kind of hung out for a second in the chat room because it was enough internet for the chat to work, but not enough for the streaming to go through. So just kind of chilled out for a second there. I think this is working. Let's see what happens when I run it. Um, yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with the internet today, but this is not unlikely for Spectrum. They are terrible, and there is no option here. So I have to deal with what I have available. And it really sucks. Like, this is a big problem in the US. For those who are watching from abroad, this is a common problem. All right, so we've got our main form again, and this time we have the Earth's moon, Mars, but these are actually coming from a real database now. We also have our destinations page, which is going to blow up when I click on it because of that same null reference problem. I need to get in the habit of putting these guards up. What we need to do is check and make sure we have data first. So if locations is null, we'll go ahead and throw a loading on this page since it's not, oops. Oh, we're out again. Internet is just up and down. I usually end around 2 anyway. I was trying to get to the end of what we were working on before I end the show. But if the internet keeps giving up, I may just have to concede. Rural Wisconsin, I feel your pain. Rural Kentucky here saying that is not any better. The bluegrass is not greener on the other side. Spectrum is just a terrible company, and they don't listen to their customers, and the streamers have to suffer because our internet sucks. So putting a guard in there that says loading, just in case there's a little traffic congestion on the database, and it solves our little problem of not being able to load that page. They do all suck. And I think it's because they have a monopoly here, and I could get on a soapbox and just complain all day long about how terrible their service is, and it doesn't do any good. So we don't have any way to hold our internet companies accountable. We can't switch providers, and if you can't pull your money as a resource towards making a change, then it's just not going to help. So this is actual 100% view here. And you can see we're getting our data from our database now. And we're displaying it in these boxes. Now there is some cleanup that has to be done in here. There's some Wikipedia garbage that's floating around. If we click view details, this does not work yet. This is still garbage. So we'll go ahead and take a look at why that is. So if I go to my destination page, thanks for the follow. Gotham Stark. Thanks for the follow. Appreciate that. This page is still using placeholder data through GenFu. So if we take this out and we load our data, our locations here, similar to the way we did on the other pages. So we need to switch over to an asynchronous on init. See if I can do this right the first time. This is a test this time. Override on init async, which needs to be async. Spell it right. Then we need to get our location. We're actually loading a single location this time. I don't know what location optimization is, but that's not what I wanted. Location equals we need our DB context here. So we need to inject. I don't think I need data anymore, do I? Yeah, data is where that is defined. So we do inject. Not inject attribute, inject BlazePort context as our DB context here. And now we can access that, and we'll say await DB context locations find async, and then we need to find the item. Let's see, am I using find correctly? Actually, I don't know if I want find. I want first async. First async, that is where the location, I'm not going to be able to use that, a location, just use L dot ID is equal to the integer that we passed in, so just ID. So this form, or this page, this component, which has a page route, this component has a page route that, hang on, I'm waiting for, there it goes, underscore to complete. It has a page route that accepts a route parameter. So we're passing in an integer as a query string. That gets applied to this ID integer, and then we're going to look for that in the database and find the location that matches that ID. And then we're going to display that on the page. And before we do any of that, we need to check and make sure it's not null. If it is null, we'll show a message. So we'll display a loading message, a very sad one. And then we'll wrap the rest of our form in that code there. There's got to be a pattern for this. I haven't quite thought of how I want to handle it yet, but there's got to be some kind of loading element, and we tell it if it's loading, then display a loading message. Otherwise, have the component display its child content, maybe. Right, so that should do what I want it to do. And we need to pass that value in. I need to make sure that my destinations page with an S, the plural page, is actually passing the ID, which it is correctly passing the ID. And now I can reload, and I should be able to navigate those successfully. I think there may be some placeholder information still on that page, but we'll take care of that in a moment. What's nice is we can see our app starting to come to life, and we've been putting a lot of prototype code in kind of just caching out ideas. And now that we've actually got live data, we can see that it's really working, except for that. Loading, it says loading, but something went awry because it's just going to sit there. So let's figure out what happened. Oh, I have a breakpoint popping up. Object not set to an instance of an object. So what this is, I will explain what is exactly happening here. We have a page called we have a page called destination that gets our location that we selected. It then displays that information on the page, but that page has child information. So there are multiple ports that need to be displayed for the location. When we try to iterate over those, I get a null because there's no ports that are being pulled in with the location. The reason for that is because of our entity framework query. And when we pull in we pull in this item, it's not loading the child elements with it. And that's a performance tweak that was made on Entity Framework. It used to do this by default. Now we have to enable it. So we need to stop the app from running, and then we need to tell Entity Framework when it pulls a location that it needs to also bring in the child elements. And I'm trying to remember how to do this off the top of my head. Let's go consult the docs again. Let's go ahead. One-to-many might get us to where we need to be. I'm trying to remember the name of the function that we have to run with it. There's a method we have to call with this. Includes. Thank you. When Darkata has the answer, it is includes or include. And then we have to tell it where to include. Then give it the property. And let's see if I did that right. I'm getting some underscores. I'm assuming I may have not done that correctly. Did I put it in the wrong spot? Does it go before or after? Maybe that's what it is. Let's do a build. I don't know if I did that wrong or it is includes with an S. Let's see if I get IntelliSense from that. DB context does not exist in the current context. Oh, there it goes. Includes. Include is right. We have many includes. Whoops. Don't want to erase the whole thing. Include. Okay. So it looks like I had it in the right spot too. What was the what's the error then? Doesn't like that for some reason. Or maybe it does. I don't see the underscores now. Might have been a false error before. I think I'm doing this correctly. Compiler will tell me. There it goes. Build succeeded. Thank you for the suggestion there, Windercotta. I think that was exactly what I needed. So I like to move these out to a separate line sometimes. Makes them a little easier to read. But what we got is we're going to fetch locations. We're going to include the ports so we don't hit that error again. And then we're going to find the first one asynchronously, and then we'll load that data. So that should do the trick for us. And now we should be able to run that page successfully. And we're working through these issues pretty quickly now. What I like about doing all the prototyping first is it gives you a little bit of a template on where you need to start writing your code out. And I think we got a pretty good bearing on where we want to go with it. So everything's starting to fall into place. Yeah, you can't control period and razor files. That's why I like the code behinds. So when I go to destinations, I click on Earth. There we go. Now Earth comes up, and there's all of our ports that are available for Earth. Cape Canaveral and so on. If I click on these, I don't think I have that. Yeah, that did not work. So what I need now is these have a similar function where these go to a port, and then the port should list the information there. So it's passing in the ID number. When I go to port, I don't have, not picking that ID up and using it anywhere yet. So we need to do the same thing again here. And wipe that out. That was all placeholder code. We don't need genfoo. We need to inject our database. This is the one thing that I like about the Blazor server-side stuff. This is just too easy, is getting your data hooked up to your app. I mean, how much easier could this be? On init async. So we'll let that override on init async. We need to put in our async keyword here. And then we need to fetch our data. So this one is going to be a port. So this is going to be port equals await. DB context dot port details. First async, and then we'll grab the port where port, whoops, that should be a lambda, where the port is has an ID of ID. And that will load our port. So now we'll have our port details, which shows the country, the latitude, longitude, which is nothing at this time. So that's where those things will be helpful. The latitude, longitude I'm showing as strings right now. What I'd like to do is maybe put a map component in there or something later. Much, much later. This would be like way down the road. Oh, good night, the Freeze team. Thanks for joining me again. Good luck with your chair if you're still in the chat room. You told me you ordered your chair the other day. You have to let me know how that turns out. New office chair is a wonderful thing to have. The one I have saves my back every day. So let's try to click through destinations, Earth, Cape Canaveral, and something failed. Let's see what went wrong, guys. The console says object reference not, so there's a null. Did I do it again? I really did it again. How many times can I do this and fail, guys? How many times? The same pattern, once again, if location is null, if something is null, then I'm going to think about this over the weekend. Okay, so that was interesting. I don't know if any of you are still there, but everything crashed. That last follow, I think, sent a memory leak overboard or something. and I lost the stream and everything else. So let me know if you're still there. It looks like I have viewers still. Give me a quick... Oh, no, here it goes again. Here it goes again. I'm losing the whole thing again. I was just teasing. That wasn't anybody's fault. I think I have something going on with... I think there's more than just an internet issue, but glad you guys are still there. We're going to close the show out here very soon because I've got... there's either a memory leak going on, which may be IIS's fault. I don't know. Computer seems to be okay. But anyhow, we were clicking through to this port, and I hit an error because it's trying to lock up again. I didn't have this properly wrapped in a null check. So we will run this. If it works, we will find somebody to raid, and I will reboot my computer that is suffering from something that is not happy about. But I want to thank everybody for joining me today. Welcome, Chris. Leglock, thanks for the follow. Nice to have you joining us on the show. You guys are coming in at the end if you're just coming in now. We just hit some hiccups with my PC, so we're trying to just recover and get one last view of our app up before we take off for the weekend here. So one last look, see if we can navigate through the app. We can go from our Earth to Cape Canaveral, and there we go. Nice loading message came up pretty quickly there. Looks like we need a back navigation, but this is all working perfectly. So we can view our different launch facilities. We can go... We should have one under the moon, Sea of Tranquility. And this looks like it's working perfectly. So with that, let us find somebody to raid, because I think my computer is about to give up the ghost and call it a weekend on its own. So let's find out. I don't think I have anybody. Nope, I don't have any of my usual suspects to raid. So if you have a suggestion, please let me know. Let's see if I can find anybody that is coding. So crossing the streams here, I'm going to add some more trouble to the stream by just pulling up the Twitch page itself. Let's see. I don't... there's somebody doing some Python. There's somebody doing Node.js and JavaScript. Let's go. I'm going to pass you guys along to somebody doing...
you didn't hear it from me, but this place is a sinking ship.
Somebody doing some Python, maybe? At least pop in and say hello. I don't know this person. Yeah, something is happening with the PC there. Yeah, let's... but anyhow, thank you guys again. We're going to head over to a show called Downright. I know nothing about them, but they are doing some hacking and penetration testing and God knows what else. So we'll go raid them in a second. Thank you again for joining me for another episode of Blazor State Has Changed. We have a working app now that has some data feeding into it. It's looking really good. And we'll pick this up next week and add some more to it. And we'll start designing and stuff in a couple weeks here too. So thank you all. Have a good weekend. Let's see if I can get this raid set up before my PC dies here. We're going to raid Downright with 41 viewers. We're joining Make sure you say hello. I don't know what they're talking about. I'd never seen the show, but it's listed as coding and development, so we will see what he's up to. Have a good weekend.